Hi, welcome to Math 76, Lesson 128. In this lesson, we're going to talk about estimating square roots. Now, we've practiced finding square roots of numbers that are perfect squares. All of the numbers listed across the top of the whiteboard are perfect squares. In fact, those are the first 10 perfect squares. Now, in this lesson, we'll practice estimating the square root of numbers that are not perfect squares. Between which two consecutive whole numbers is the square root of 20? Now notice, I didn't ask you to find the square root of 20. I asked you to find the whole numbers on either side of the square root of 20. So we can first think of the perfect squares that are on either side of the number 20. Looking at the list at the top of the whiteboard, we can see that 20 falls between the perfect squares of 16 and 25. Since the square root of 16 is 4 and the square root of 25 is 5, we know that the square root of 20 falls somewhere in between the square root of 4, or falls somewhere in between 4 and 5. Now, since 4 times 4 is 16 and 5 times 5 is 25, there must be some numbers in between 4 and 5 that the square root of 20 is. Now, we can try this. We can try 4.5 times 4.5, and we'll see that that equals 20.25. So we see that that is too large. Let's try 4.4. times 4.4. Now we see that that is 19.36. So we see that 4.4 is too small. So the square root of 20 is more than 4.4, but less than 4.5. And it's closer to 4.5. Now we could continue this process and never find the exact decimal number or fraction that equals the square root of 20. The square root of 20 belongs to a class of numbers called irrational numbers. Irrational numbers cannot be exactly expressed as a ratio. So that means it's not a fraction or a decimal. We may use fractions or decimals to express the approximate value of an irrational number. So it would be like this. The square root of 20 equals approximately 4.5. Now you see this wavy equal sign? That wavy equal sign means approximately equal to. Now we can use a calculator to approximate the value of the square root of 20. Now on a calculator, I'm going to try to show you my calculator here. I don't know if I can get it, so it's good. I would enter 20. And then right here, I have a little square root button with an X under it. I'm going to push that button. And as you see, we get a 4 with a decimal point that goes on to 9 decimals. They give me 9 numbers here. Now, this is the number I got. We're going to round that to 2 decimal places. So we would round this to the second decimal place. Since after the 7 is a 2, it will round down to 7. And we would round that to 4.7. And so we go back to this sign where this is where we get this. Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't write it. We would do this. The square root of 20 is approximately 4.7. Now, in our practice problems, right before your math set, there are some irrational square roots. I want you to practice approximating those. The first section asks you to approximate the two whole numbers that they lie between. So just like here, the square root of 20 lies between 4 and 5. So it's going to have you practice that. And then you have a few that you can actually practice approximating the square root to 2 decimal places on a calculator. So you would do what we did on the calculator and then tell me to approximate. I'd like you to practice those. I will put the answers to the practice problem in Canvas so that you can check your work.